But okay. Assault on a police officer, isn't that a felony? Citizens arrest, citizens arrest. All right, well, good afternoon, everybody. Well, yeah, you're not getting out that easy. Welcome to the September 28, 2023 executive session of the Clarksville City Council. First item on our agenda is Planning Commission report. Mr. Tyndall, please, sir. First item on that report is ordinance 29, 2023, 24, zoning case Z 50, 2023. Mr. Tyndall.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Pleasure to be here. We have several cases to show you tonight. The first is one we've been working on the last 2 months with the applicants. It's Planning Commission case number Z50 2023, application of Will D. Christian III and family, Christian Innovation LLC. This is currently 83.59 acres, currently zoned ag, wishing to go to MXU PUD or mixed use planned unit development. This is a tract of land south of the eastern terminus of Eagles Nest Lane and Viewmont Drive and Heatherwood Trace. It's also along the corridor of the first phase of the Spring Creek Parkway. This is in City Council Ward number 12. It's currently 2 tracks connected by a narrow strip of land. The southern tract is planned to be bisected by the future Spring Creek Parkway. The southern tract is bound by the Spring Creek along its east and west boundaries, varying steep topography and currently wooded. The northern tract, I'll ignore that. They actually pulled the northern tract off the plan last month. The applicant's statement is for the purpose of the Black Oaks proposed mixed-use town center. Here's the zoning around it. As you can imagine, everything along the Spring Creek Parkway, future Spring Creek Parkway, is all ag currently because there's no access to these parcels. It's one of the major things we had to work through, and I'll get into that a little bit. You can see where this property ends on the south there. It will be approximately the southern terminus of phase 1 of the Spring Creek Parkway, which goes from Trenton Road to the west, approximately 1.8 miles to the edge of this property. Phase 2 would be a future project which would take it across the Spring Creek and connect to the back of Wilma Rudolph at Edgemont, I believe is the road down there. Not a lot of pictures. This is at the terminus of Eagles Nest Lane. Looking at the property, one of the stubs. Now, this property will not be using any of the stubs from the surrounding properties. There's a property in between it, just barely, but this is a current view of one of the properties down there, and another current view. As I said, it's rolling hills, partially row crop, partially wooded. And we'll get into the plan a little bit. So you can see as the property is dashed coming in here, that's the Spring Creek Parkway. You see the proposed uses on the bottom in a mixed Main Street type setting. I'll go through the PUD report here. The proposed uses you see here are 47,500 square feet of retail or commercial, 451 total residential uses. That's broken down into 61 townhouses, 130 senior living and a 3-story assisted living residence, 144 multifamily units, and 116 residential above commercial units. The site does accommodate approximately 8 acres or 17.87% open space. It also has a clubhouse, trails, pool, and preserved open space. The first phase, so this project is broken up into 3 phases moving left to right. Phase 1 would be the rear there, phase 2 in the blue, and phase 3 in the green across the street. Phase 1 would be 146,000 square foot of retail and a commercial, 15,000 square foot of office. I'm sorry, I'm reading this wrong. The first set of numbers I read you was the west, the purple and the blue. This in the green, tract east, is 146,000 square feet of retail, 15,000 square foot of office, 41,600 square feet of mixed use office or commercial, and 38 residential units above the commercial. 6.19% open space on that side of the project in just left in wild open space. As a reminder, I'll read this from the ordinance. The intent of a PUD, or a mixed-use PUD, is to create a pedestrian-oriented neighborhood by encouraging a variety of infill housing choices with retail, office, restaurants, and public facilities or institutions that are less automobile dependent. The mixed-use PUD is intended to promote flexibility in design and diversification of complementary uses. This is accomplished by applying a professionally prepared development plan and promote the use of effective use of land, facilitating a more economic arrangement of buildings, circulation system, land uses, and utilities. And the Planning Commission believes that the intent has been met by this. Here's a 3D rendering of the stories of the building. You can see the west side or left side here is a little more taller, 3 and 4 story buildings for the most part. The east side would be more of a traditional mall setting of 1 and 2 story uses on that side. This is just the major street network. The purple would be the Spring Creek Parkway, blue would be your primary streets, and yellow your third tertiary streets on there. This is your sidewalk and trail system. Green would be the trails, orange would be the sidewalks connecting throughout the site. And again, this is a location plan for where you can see where it is. Department comments or concerns. It will require water and sewer extensions, as well as electric extensions. Traffic study was received by the street department and approved. It does now show the FEMA buffers on the stream plan and has been adjusted accordingly. And you can see the school system comments about the northeast complex. Staff does recommend approval. We feel that the PUD does meet the intent of the PUD and the guidelines contained therein, and the Planning Commission also recommended approval.
Thank you. Councilperson McLaughlin, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. So I came in after the Parkway discussion had happened. According to one of the slides, it looks like they're going to have 3 accesses to the Parkway. The one with the purple line, is that correct, or is that proposed by the property owner?
So working south to north on this map here, the southern access point will have a traffic signal. The middle access points are right in, right out with a median dividing it, so you can't cross there. The northern access point is a full access point, but it goes through a separate parcel. So that's a potential access, but not one they're using. So full access on this would be through the right in, right out, or at the signal that's at the south part of the site.
Okay. If they are able to, I guess it's north, the top of the arrow, where the blue is coming from in the other parcel, if they do in a future point get access to the Parkway there, would that require them to participate in signalizing that, or would that be a right turn only, or?
We hadn't looked into that. The street department, when they designed this with the consulting firm, left certain portions along the Spring Creek Parkway as fully accessed with signals, some without signals, and some as right in, right out.
Okay.
I can't speak to that because this property isn't specifically using that at this moment,
Right.
but that does have access into that portion of the Spring Creek Parkway, should they be able to tap into it in the future if the neighboring property, say, does run it to the south.
Okay, I'm just trying to think ahead of things. The 101st was really nice until we had a bunch of signals on it, so, thank you.
Councilperson Allen, you're recognized.
Yes, in the corner, right there, there's like a little piece that's being rezoned, like right there where you see the 2 lines. On here, it looks like it's being rezoned. Is that already a road, or is that it's going up to Kennedy Lane? You see what I'm
In
talking
the
about?
purple,
No, not where the purple is. Right. Okay, can you go back to the one with the red zoning line with the lines? It looks like a trail. Is that you see
yes.
that little red line up there? Is that
Yeah.
already a road or a trail? What is that?
that is actually the Spring Creek. It's part of the property. They own it. It's going to
Okay.
be left as open space.
Okay,
It's just the stream.
thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, we're ready for the next item. Item B, ordinance 30. Mr. Tyndall, please, sir.
One thing I failed to mention, I need to mention this on the PUD. I'm sorry, Mayor. One of the big things the Planning Commission had to do this past month to work through some of the transportation issues is that the applicant has agreed, it is in writing on our phasing plan that says that the Black Oak PUD agrees to the condition, the application with the phasing plan that will not permit any phase or section of the proposed Black Oaks MXU PUD to be submitted to the Clarksville Montgomery County Regional Planning Commission for final approval until the letting of construction contract for the second phase of the parkway. The RPC may extend any of this with cause. Reason being there is the initial phase, if second phase is never built, all this goes to Trenton Road. And we said this needs to operate with both sides going out to Wilmer Rudolph and Trenton Road. After a month of working with them, the applicant has agreed upon that statement, and it is in the document that you are going to be adopting potentially next week. All right, our next case up tonight, Z51 2023. This is the application of Frank Stabile II. This is requesting to go from R3 to R4. It is an extension of the R4 to the west. It's a parcel fronting E Street, 215 feet east of Beach Street and E Street intersection in Council Ward number 4. It's an existing lot with a residential structure, and the applicant's statement is to extend the current zoning for a multifamily development. They do own the parcel to the west with that multifamily structure on it. Mr. Stabile owns that one as well. Department comments or concerns. The street department has asked that when it comes in for site plan, they would dedicate 7.5 feet of right-of-way for future widening and sidewalk on E Street. And no other comments or concerns. You have the school system comments listed of their capacities. This is looking at the site. That's the house there is part of the request on E Street. This is the other current multifamily project that Mr. Stabile owns adjacent to it. And there's the house next to it. And up the side street. Historical estimates would put this at 6 units. Staff recommends approval. The proposed zoning request is consistent with the adopted land use plan. The proposed R4 residential request is not out of character with the development pattern of the area. The R4 multifamily request is an extension of the established R4 district to the west, and adequate infrastructure serves the site. No adverse environmental issues were identified relative to this request, and the Planning Commission also recommended approval.
Thank you, Mr. Tindall. Any comment or question? Seeing none, we're ready for item C, ordinance 31. Mr. Tindall, please, sir.
This is Planning Commission case number Z52, 2023. Application of Clarksville Christian. Agent is Hal Matthews. This is 3.67 acres, currently zoned R1 and requesting to go to C2. A church is a permitted upon review use in R1 and has been there since the early 90s. It is an extension of the C2 to the south. The parcel fronts Russellville Pike approximately 300 feet south of Russellville Pike Honeycomb Court intersection. This is in City Council Ward number 11. It's a former church facility and an adjoining parking lot, and the applicant's statement is the property has existed as a church with approximately 7,500 square foot commercial building since 1993 in an R1 conforming use. Owner wishes to sell the property and buyer wants to convert current structure to a neighborhood medical clinical office. There's Honeycomb Court on your left, looking back towards the site just past the houses. Here's the structure in question with its parking lot. And then to the left of that are several rental units on a parcel. And St. B Elementary is directly across the street. Department comments or concerns. A trip generation report was required and received by the street department. They will require sidewalk along the frontage once it's approved. And the school system provided comments, even though the applicant has stated it is going to be a commercial use with C2. As you know, there is a potential for residential use. Historical estimates of this site was built out with residential completely, 44 historical estimate of the uses there. Staff recommends approval. The proposed request is consistent with the land use plan. The proposed C2 general commercial district is not out of character with the surrounding development pattern. This request provides an opportunity for adaptive reuse of the structure, and adequate infrastructure serves the site, and no adverse environmental issues were identified, and the Planning Commission also recommends approval.
Thank you, Mr. Tyndall. Any comment or question regarding this ordinance? Seeing none, we're ready for item D, ordinance 32. Mr. Tyndall, please, sir.
This is a Planning Commission case Z53 2023, application of Living Hope Baptist Church. The agent is Kevin Short and Kevin Newell. This is right at 2 acres, which is the maximum request for C1. Property is currently zoned R5 and is requesting to go to C1. Similarly to the last applications, churches and their associated uses, in this case, childcare, church childcare are allowed in residential districts when the Board of Zoning Appeals has given them a use permitted on review. They would also be permitted in C1, which is what they're intending to go to a more compliant zone. It's an existing church facility with parking lot, and the applicant's statement is, in addition to church activities, the property will be used to provide service and childcare for residents within convenient traveling distance. There's the church in question with its parking lot. It was built in just the last 4 or 5 years out there next to the fire department. And there's the neighborhood directly behind it, and you can see the building on the right. And there's Tylertown Road looking back towards the site. No department comments or concerns involved. Staff recommends approval. The proposed zoning request is consistent with the land use plan. The request is a corner lot in a node of commercial activity with higher density residential development nearby. It is also within character of the development pattern along Tylertown Road, and adequate infrastructure serves the site, and no adverse environmental issues were identified. Planning Commission also recommends approval.
Thank you, Mr. Tyndall. Any comment or question regarding ordinance 32? Seeing none, we're ready for item E, ordinance 33. Mr. Tyndall, please, sir.
Planning Commission case Z54 2023, application of Double Bogey Partners. Acreage to be rezoned is .58, currently zoned R1 and requesting to go to R4, and it is an extension of R4. The parcel is located at the corner of Lafayette Road and Evans Road in City Council Ward Number 2. The applicant's statement is, this is an extension of the existing R4. It will provide small multifamily development on a corner lot. It has a neighborhood school complex with existing sidewalk connectivity and existing sidewalks to public transportation to support future residents on this 5-lane corridor. There's the corner right there, Evans Road on the left. You'll see that AT&T cabinet structure. The property's that's on the corner of the property. And there's, looking back, properties on the right by that telephone pole. And looking back down Evans Road towards the high school, property on the left. The street department's comment said it must access Evans Road only, and sidewalks along Evans Road frontage would be required. There's already sidewalk along Lafayette Road. No other department comments or concerns, and you see the school system comments about their capacities listed. Historical estimates would put this at 7 units. Staff recommends approval. The zoning request is consistent with the land use plan. The proposed R4 multifamily residential request is not out of character with the development pattern of the area, and it is encouraged to maintain a desirable mixture of housing. The R4 multifamily is an extension of the established R4 district to the east, and adequate infrastructure serves the site, and no adverse environmental issues were identified. The Planning Commission also recommends approval.
Thank you, Mr. Tyndall. Any comment or question regarding this ordinance? Seeing none, before you move on, Mr. Tyndall, I'll bring to the council's attention the first item on the consent agenda. Ordinance 147 is a leftover from last month, and we'll ask you to stay put for that one while we discuss any questions or comments regarding that ordinance. Sure. So now we're ready for ordinance 34.
All right. This is Z55 2023 from the Planning Commission, application of Johnny Piper. This is 1.43 acres, currently zoned M2 and requesting to go to M1. It's a portion of a parcel located at the southwest corner of Innovation Way and Eubank Drive City Council Ward Number 4. It's a grassland area adjacent to a parking lot within an industrial development. The applicant's statement is to subdivide to build a warehouse, and the setbacks of the M2 make the site impractical. So in other words, most of this area is M2 to the left, right, and M1 to the left. They're just requesting this little strip, even though it's part of a M2 block. The corner could be M1, reduces their setbacks by about 20 overall, just letting them have a little bit bigger building area on that corner. Here's the parcel in question on the right, next to that existing warehouse. And there it would be on the left, between the warehouse and the road. No department comments or concerns. Staff does recommend approval. The proposed zoning request is consistent with the land use plan. The request is within a current industrial development and is not out of character with the development pattern. The proposed M1 light industrial request will permit more compact development pattern within an established industrial complex, and no adverse environmental issues were identified. The staff and the commission both recommend approval.
Any comment or question regarding this ordinance? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Tyndall. We'll move on now to the first item on the consent agenda, ordinance 147, 2022-23, a holdover from the September regular session ordinance amending the city zoning ordinance of the city of Clarksville as it pertains to the R3 and R2D zoning classification. I think there were questions or comments. Mr. Tyndall, I'm going to recognize Councilperson Smith first, and then anybody else can chime in. So Councilperson Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. Let me first give a brief history of the Red River neighborhood for some of the new city council persons that were not here when this took place. The Red River neighborhood was established in the late 40s and 50s. The land was sold to African Americans by two lawyers, Carney and Savage of Clarksville. In the Red River neighborhood, many of the owners have expired and many of the homes have been left unattended by the children and heirs that have moved to other states or cities, which have caused the homes to become ruined or dilapidated. As a council member who was born and raised in the neighborhood, I saw fit to do something to save a beautiful, viable neighborhood and to restore it to a stable subdivision. So I began my research with the hopes of making the community dream a reality. I spoke with Mayor Pitts about my desires and worked with the Clarksville Neighborhood Community Services in ways to restore the community with a single-family affordable homes. With this, the city hired Ed Smith Consultants from Kentucky, who completed an analysis of the community, held meetings with the Red River residents, and received input from them as well. I worked closely with the Planning Commission, as well as Mr. Tyndall, the director, and the Neighborhood Community Housing Development. With this, a Red River Neighborhood Plan was created. It was brought before the City Council and voted on in May of 2022. The plan was established to restore the Red River neighborhood into a beautiful community, to prevent gentrification, prohibit duplexes and triplexes, to provide stability and a friendly, safe, peaceful neighborhood. Mr. Tyndall was challenged with the idea to create a zone or revise the R3 zone for the small neighborhood to make a dream a reality. And he brought forth his ordinance that does not fix the problem. I brought forth an amendment to align with the neighborhood Red River plan. And so we also I had residents to sign a resolution that I had brought forth to the council back in 2021 of July. And so to see that we could restore this neighborhood. This was a moderate to high-class African-American neighborhood. Today, it is now a diverse neighborhood, consists of all races, Mexicans, whites, we have it. And we are so happy to have a diverse neighborhood. So today we are here to talk about the ordinance that Mr. Tyndall has brought forth. He helped me to revise my amendment I have brought before this council a couple of times. And I just wanted to make sure you all understood my reason for pushing this. It is not for personal gain, as some think. I live in my neighborhood for over 60 years. As I said, I was born and raised. If it was for personal gain, there would not be a duplex in front of my house. If it was for personal gain, there would not be an Airbnb next door to me where I get no sleep and there's always in and out. There was never a duplex in front of my house or an Airbnb next to me. So it's not for personal gain. I want to make that clear. Because some people think that, but it is for public gain, for the residents that live in that area. I stand as the council person and speak on the behalf of these citizens who signed the petition to save a neighborhood that was once viable, live, peaceful, stable. And so this is why I have been pushing to try to get this passed. However, it's up to you. And I know, Mr. Tender, you said that your ordinance decreases the amount of duplexes and triplexes in that area. However, it does not prevent the duplexes and triplexes from being built in the area based upon your ordinance. And you and I talked yesterday, and we discussed this intensely. And so we know that it does not align with the neighborhood plan. We paid for a consultant, Mr. Edward Holmes, to come in from Kentucky, Louisville, Kentucky, to give us a plan. He did an analysis, as I said, of that community. He worked with you, me, the citizens, and we came up with this plan. And we voted unanimously to save this community. However, we're still at the same point of trying to pass something that would align with this Red River Neighborhood Plan. And so my questions to you are, does your plan lay out that only affordable homes will be built in that neighborhood? Yes or no?
No.
Okay. Does your plan specify that duplexes and triplexes can only be built on the outer edges of the Red River neighborhood? Yes or no?
Yes and no. It depends on the lot size. So, some.
Just depends on lot size, but your ordinance does not specify this. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Does your plan explicitly support the consultant's recommendation for this neighborhood? Yes or no?
It supports the recommendations.
How?
It gets most of the way there.
Most.
And
So it does.
I'll let you finish.
So it
and I'll
does not
explain.
really support or align with the Red River Neighborhood Plan. Am I correct?
I believe it does.
To the fullest.
Not to the fullest.
Okay.
There's multiple steps.
Okay. How many vacant lots are in the Red River area now? Vacant lots where duplex and triplexes can be built at this time?
When we began the plan, I think I got that up on the slides there. When we began the study, there was over 100 vacant lots in the entire neighborhood out of about 320 total lots. Bottom right corner of this slide, before this ordinance, so under the current rules, there are 81 compliant lots that could have a duplex. After the R3 amendments that are proposed in front of you, that drops to 24. Of those 24, only 10 of those lots are vacant in the neighborhood. And same thing with triplex. Under the current rules, there's 38 compliant lots. That drops to 13. And of those 13, there are now only 6 lots that could potentially, that are vacant currently, that could have a triplex put onto them. Some are in the area that says it could be a triplex, and yes, some are in the core of the neighborhood that, as identified in the plan, says should be single-family residential.
Right. Okay. Thank you. How many duplexes and triplexes are already in the Red River neighborhood area? I know you said there was 6 lots, but how many do we have there now? I know you said there's 10 vacant lots. So how many duplexes and triplexes do we have in that area now?
I don't know the complete count.
But there are many.
There's
We have more than enough. Okay, and what is the number of the homes in that area now, single-family homes?
Well, somewhere around 200.
About 200.
You got 300 existing lots in the area, and you have about 100 vacant lots, so there's around 200
About
existing structures, some of which are duplexes, some of which are triplexes.
Right. Thank you. As we know that instability can have a number of negative effects on the overall welfare of the people in neighborhoods as well as nationwide. And we know that instability in a neighborhood causes unrest. It causes more complaints from the residents that live there. I have had many complaints, but I chose not to report all complaints because I don't like to be a complainer. I like to be a person to get along with my neighbors. And so I try to work things out with them. However, there's been no real rest for me. And so not only me, there are other people there, but I have to speak with what I know. And like I said, it's not for personal gain. I want to make that clear because I live near anything that you can put in the neighborhood. And it's okay because I can handle it. But there are people who cannot, that are older than me. And we have some complaints that I get all the time. And so what I'm trying to say today, if we don't fix the problem, it will get worse. And I appreciate what you're trying to do. And I just wanted to make that clear. There's no personal gain here. It's for the public and for the residents. And I represent them, so I speak on their behalf today. Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Tindall, do you want to speak, or we've got one other council member?
I'll wait till all council members finish and then finish up.
Okay. Councilperson Allen, you're recognized.
Mine is just a point of clarity. When you say there's 100 vacant lots, that means they're abandoned? That means they're dilapidated? What's going on
No
with those vacant?
structure on them.
No structure at all. So 100 of those lots have no structure.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else have questions for Mr. Tindall? Okay, you're up.
Sure. I'll just keep it short and sweet. This is on second reading. Apologize that I couldn't have been here this past month to help this through at the time, and it got derailed a little bit, and appreciate you deferring it so that we could get a little more clarification before this goes forward. Councilmember Smith is right in most of her accounts in that fact that this does not fully solve the problem. It is a bit of a Band-Aid. You know, we have to stop the bleeding first. We have to correct it. I feel like what is done here has gotten 81 potential duplexes down to 10. 6 of those 10 could also have a duplex or a triplex. So I feel like that's a very big move the needle in the right direction. I think it was mentioned last month by a council member that we don't want a spaghetti code, and I've never heard of it that term, but when described that way, that's exactly why the Planning Commission did not want to put a specific overlay over just one neighborhood of 100 acres here and 100 acres there, limiting one thing or another. We didn't want other neighborhoods to start saying, well, we don't want multifamily, or we don't want churches, or we don't want this or that. As a city this size, it's easier to keep the code in one place and let folks know what they're going after. So that's some of the disagreement between the council member who spoke earlier about this and myself, is that what she would like it for her neighborhood, and I feel that as part of keeping a consistent code for use by all citizens, we're trying to do the right thing there. I will say there's additional steps. If you do look at the Red River Neighborhood Plan, there's multiple steps to be taken, not just by us, but by the street department, neighborhood and community service, and others. I feel like we've taken a very big first bite of this apple. What would follow up? The Planning Commission does plan over the next fiscal year to do a pattern book for that neighborhood of what the desired housing types are in there, and give ideas to the developers of the remaining lots of what you could and can build in there. And we can also look at some additional zoning updates that don't involve a specific neighborhood overlay that may get this thing to zero. But at this point, I feel like the amount of time we've spent on this, we need to get this adopted and then work on whatever the next steps are. Thank you.
Councilperson Allen?
Yes, I have a question for the sponsor. The question is, are you trying to get it to where there are 0 lots that end up with triplexes or duplexes? Or is just getting the number down enough? I mean, if we're going from 81 down to 24 and then from 36 down to 38 down to 13, I'm just trying to find out what is your desired result.
Councilperson Smith?
Oh.
It was
I
directed to
thought
you,
she
I
was-
think.
Okay, is that?
Yes.
Thank you. It's not my desire per se. It's based up on the neighborhood community plan that was put in place that we paid for. You remember
Yes.
Mr. Holmes came in and spoke to us, and we voted unanimously to accept this plan to prevent gentrification in the area that is already happening. And so this was a great neighborhood like yours, but not as good as your neighborhood. But we're losing it due to gentrification and the overburden of instability and the burdens of, just over flooded with duplexes and triplexes. There's an in and out. It's become an in and out type neighborhood. It's not stable anymore. There's no familiarity. There is no peace. There is no rest. And so what we're trying to do, and per this Red River Neighborhood Plan, is to stop duplexes, any more duplexes from being built, because we already have a lot. We're looking for affordable homes to restore and revive the area. It was dilapidated. It has changed. It's gotten better because we have been the contractors have been building affordable homes. And we just want to live in peace. And we want to stop the duplexes. We don't need any more. We already overburdened with duplexes and triplexes that has taken over a once beautiful neighborhood. And his ordinance, nothing against Mr. Tender, I know what he wants to do, but it should have been made specifically for that particular area. However, he just did it for the whole city. And so, but and I want us to understand that the plan was specifically for that community, not for the whole city. It was for that community explicitly. Did I answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So I have a question for Mr. Tyndall now. Mr. Tyndall, so I know that you're changing the zoning ordinance for the entire city, right? So what we're changing right now is for the entire city. Do you have any plans in place to get this eventually in line with the Red River Plan? Not this particular ordinance, but do we have a
Yes.
plan to, okay, can
Yes.
we hear that?
Sure, and that's kind of what's in those bottom two right bullets. So the first thing is this entire neighborhood is zoned R3. So after meeting with the code department and the desire to not overcomplicate things, we decided that changing R3, and again, back to the original intent, and it's been a couple months since we talked about this, this brings back the original prior to the 2010 zoning change, the sizes that were in place at the time. And back prior to 2010, no one was building duplexes and triplexes. So we think the economics of the change and the rollback to 2010 will encourage builders and developers to build the single-family home instead of the duplexes. Not that you can't do it, but you could build two single-family houses on the same lot. You can build one duplex. So to me, it's a two-for-two trade. And a lot of our local builders are more than happy to build and sell off the home than to own it themselves and try to sell a duplex or rent it out. So we think both the size requirements as well as the economics that are going to change with that zone change should steer this to become nearly all single-family structures going forward. As I mentioned, a neighborhood pattern book will help so that we get more of the consistent housing, working with the neighborhood to say what kind of housing do you want here, what do you want it to look like? And not that it would be a regulation, but it's more of a suggestion book. We're talking about a 5 to 10 page little booklet that shows some examples of good and bad construction and do this, not that. And then we can look at additional zoning updates as needed. Again, I'm very hesitant to do a neighborhood overlay, neighborhood by neighborhood. The only overlays we have are downtown design and Madison Street design overlays. So they're specifically just about design, not about types of units. So I'm not sure we want to start that, to have every neighborhood have their own specific set of rules throughout the city. We have hundreds of neighborhoods.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilperson McLaughlin, you're recognized.
Mr. Tyndall, I wish that Mr. Baker was here. One thing I wrote down from when I made a motion to postpone this was that he said that we can't vote in favor of it because it conflicts the Red River Plan. Did you?
I got to listen to the meeting and,
Okay.
and went back and listened to that. I think Mr. Baker was misinformed when he said that. The Red River Neighborhood Plan is just that, it's a plan. It's a policy document, it's not an ordinance. It provides a lot of options and a lot of policies, and this initial ordinance here is the Planning Commission and Code Department's joint effort to address one of the first key recommendations in the plan. So we can take and do all the recommendations, but there's about 15 or so recommendations throughout that plan that involve a lot of different departments. This is the first stab at it to address this issue. The plan goes on to some other issues about affordability and infrastructure in the neighborhood, but we wanted to tackle the zoning first. So, again, this is consistent in my opinion. Does it get it to that 100% mark like the sponsor wants? No, it's getting pretty darn close, and we have other opportunities through other mechanisms to get that as close to 100 as possible.
Okay, thank you. And then Mayor, I just have one comment. So I understand the sponsor of the amendment's concerns about having a transient neighborhood. I think that a lot of us live in neighborhoods where there are renters and people in and out. And from my experience, the only way to prevent that, and you're a planning professional, you might correct me if I'm wrong, is by having deed restrictions that you're required to have owner occupied property. So I don't know if there's any way to try to prevent that, but that's just, if that makes sense to the sponsor of the amendment, I think that's really the only way to prevent that, because even if your amendments did go into effect, it wouldn't prevent somebody from renovating a property, building a new property, and then renting it out, just like the rest of the city. So, thank you.
I'll just clarify that neither Tennessee law nor city code can tell you who owns it and how to own it, whether it's a condo association or an ownership or a rental situation. And the city's Airbnb ordinance as well does not take ownership into account.
Okay, thank you.
Councilperson Smith, you recognize.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I want to address Mr. Tyndall's something he said about overlay. He didn't want to make overlay design for all different communities and things like that. And what I'm saying is this. We have historical designs that's specifically for historical neighborhoods that we cannot do certain things in. And so, no, you're not trying to set up an overlay design for all neighborhoods, but we do have different styles, or if you want to call it designs, historical, let's just use that one, for the way it's set up. You can't do certain things in historical neighborhoods. You can't paint your house this color in a historical neighborhood. You can't hang out clothes on, I'm just making up some things, but I know it's not all correct. You can't hang up some clothes on a clothesline. You see what I'm saying? Different things. You can't build this type of fence, and all of this. And so what we're saying is that we want to make sure that we're in order and that we're putting together what is right for this neighborhood, and that your revision of R3 should have been specifically for the Red River neighborhood. And that's why we paid the consultants to do such. After I contacted the mayor and gave him our desires and talked to a little bit of everybody. And so that's what this was specifically for. I think the problem comes in when you changed it for the whole city. That's the problem. You weren't supposed to change it for the whole city. You were supposed to change it for just our neighborhood that we paid to do that specific design or analysis in that area. And I know you agree with me on that because that's what we were supposed to do. And however, and I want to answer one more what my fellow council person said. They have renters in and out of their neighborhood, all neighborhoods, and I agree with you. My thing is this, we do too. It's not that we don't have. We got plenty. We are over flooding with rentals. We are ran down with renters. And so it makes it unstable. And so I agree with you, and I understand exactly what you're saying, but we need to get to the point where we are following rules and doing what we're supposed to do to help these people in this neighborhood. Like I said, it's not about me. I'm just representing the people in that area. And we just want to make sure that they know that I'm their representative, and they know who's voting for and against what we're trying to do. We're just trying to make our neighborhood just as pretty and beautiful as any other neighborhood. We want a dream to become a reality. Thank you.
Okay, any other comment or question regarding ordinance 147? Okay, Mr. Tindall, thank you.
I'm done. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, will you read the consent agenda?
All items in this portion of the agenda are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the council and may be approved by one motion. However, a member of the council may request that an item be removed for separate consideration under the appropriate committee report. Ordinance 147, 2022-23, second reading, was postponed on September 7th. An ordinance amending the city zoning ordinance of the city of Clarksville as it pertains to the R3 and R2D zoning classification. Ordinance 13, 2023-24, second reading, accepting the donation of certain real property from BGA Properties to the city of Clarksville for the purpose of a sewer pump station. Ordinance 14, 2023-24, second reading, amending the donation of certain real property from Bill Ballou to the city of Clarksville for the purpose of a sewer pump station. Ordinance 15, 2023-24, second reading, accepting the donation of certain real property from Copper Ridge Apartments LLC to the city of Clarksville for the purpose of a sewer pump station. Ordinance 16, 2023-24, second reading, amending the donation of certain real property from Christopher Blackwell to the city of Clarksville for the purpose of a sewer pump station. Ordinance 17, 2023-24, second reading, accepting the donation of certain real property from James Durrett to the city of Clarksville for the purpose of a sewer pump station. Ordinance 18, 2023-24, second reading, accepting the donation of certain real property from Edward Burchett to the city of Clarksville for the purpose of a sewer pump station. Ordinance 19, 2023-24, second reading, accepting the donation of certain real property from Jeff Burkhart Custom Properties to the city of Clarksville for the purpose of a sewer pump station. Ordinance 20, 2023-24, second reading, amending Part 2, Code of Ordinances, Title 13, Utilities and Service, Chapter 3, Gas, Water, and Sewer Service, the city of Clarksville relative to deposits, charges, assessment areas, adjustments, and installment plans. Ordinance 21, 2023-24, second reading, an ordinance accepting the donation of certain real property from Edward C. Burchett to the city of Clarksville for the public use of CSM retired Sidney R. Brown Park at Birchwood. Ordinance 23, 2023-24, second reading, amending the zoning ordinance and map of the city of Clarksville, application of Michael Lee Gray for zone change on property located on a portion of a tract of land fronting on the north frontage of Pollard Road, 680 plus or minus feet west of the Pollard Road and Dominion Drive intersection from R1 Single Family Residential District to ACG Agricultural Commercial District. Ordinance 24, 2023-24, second reading, amending the zoning ordinance and map of the city of Clarksville, application of WPN LLC, Therese Winnington agent, for zone change on property located on a parcel located west of the Beach Street and Mitchell Street intersection from R3 3-family residential district to R4 multiple family residential district. Ordinance 25, 2023-24, second reading, amending the zoning ordinance and map of the city of Clarksville, application of Maxie K. West and Nicole K. West, Rosemary Calcese Esquire agent, for zone change on property located on a tract of land located at the northwest corner of the western intersection of Airport Road and Tandy Drive from R3 3-family residential district to R4 multiple family residential district. Ordinance 26, 2023-24, second reading, amending the zoning ordinance and map of the city of Clarksville, application of Faith Investments for zone change on two parcels fronting on the east frontage of North Whitfield Road, 675 plus or minus feet north of the Whitfield Road and Needmore Road intersection from R4 multiple family residential district and AG agricultural district to R5 residential district. Resolution 6, 2023-24, a resolution approving an appointment to the Parking Commission and the adoption of minutes from September 7th.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Anybody wish to be recognized on the consent agenda? Seeing none, we're now ready for the Finance Committee report. Chairperson Streetman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance 27, 2023, 24, first reading. An ordinance amending the operating and capital budgets for fiscal year 2024 for governmental funds. Ordinance 140, 2022-23 to amend capital project names. The Finance Committee recommended approval.
Any comment or question? Seeing none, you're recognized. Chairperson Streetman.
Mayor, for item number B, we'd like to move this to after ordering the discussion, or, sorry, after the attorney-client privilege.
Yeah, we'll move this item to the end under attorney-client privilege portion of our meeting. Any other comment or question from the Finance Committee report? Okay, we're now ready for the Gas and Water Committee. Chairperson Holloman.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll have a full report next week.
Thank you. Neighborhood and Community Services, Chairperson Shekinah, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a full report next week.
Thank you. Parks and Recreation Committee, Chairperson Zacharias, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll have a full report next week.
Thank you. Public Safety Committee, Chairperson will have a full report next week. Transportation, Streets, and Garage Committee, Chairperson Smith, you're recognized.
Full report August the 5th.
All right, you've heard it here first. Okay.
October. Did I say August? Well, I'm going back in time. It'll be
Yeah.
October the 5th of 2023.
She'll also have one in August next year, too. Okay, we're now ready for mayor and council member comments. Anybody have a comment? Seeing none, we're ready. I'm sorry. Councilperson McLaughlin, you're recognized for a comment.
Thank you. I just want to mention that my next town hall meeting is on Tuesday, October 3rd, 5:30 PM at the District 1 Precinct at 211 Cunningham Lane. All are welcome regardless of what city council ward you live in. Thank you.
Okay, Councilperson Streetman, you're recognized for comments.
Thank you, Mayor. I would just like to say that this month was the first time that the Regional Planning Commission meeting was actually live streamed. It is available on YouTube. All you have to do is search for CMCRPC on YouTube, and you'll be able to watch it at your leisure. You can either watch it while it's happening or watch it later on the device of your choosing, but it's a great opportunity to be able to see exactly what's going on in that meeting, even if you're unable to attend.
Thank you. Councilperson Allen, you're recognized for comments.
So this has nothing to do with this branch of government, but I'm sitting up here as a representative federal employee. Hug a federal employee, because we might not go to work Monday. Thank you.
All right, you heard it here first. All right. Okay, any other comments from council? We are at the public comment portion of our agenda. Any member of the public wish to address the council? Seeing none, the next item on our agenda is an attorney-client privilege portion of our agenda. We'll invite everyone to excuse themselves. Y'all have a good evening and Merry Christmas.